In this video, we're going to show you how to install the brake backing plate on your Explorer Interceptor located behind your rear wheels. With the vehicle raised and supported, we're going to go ahead and use a small pry bar to go ahead and pop off the center cap. Get behind the lip there, pry that out. I'm going to use a 19mm socket to go ahead and loosen and remove the lug nuts. Grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. We want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper and bracket as one unit. In order to do so, we're going to come around the back side here, and we will need to remove this bolt and this bolt here. We're going to use our deep socket. This is going to be a 15mm. And in most cases, you can get these loose enough where you can just spin them up by hand. If not, just use your ratchet or your gear wrench, whatever you want, to go ahead, loosen and remove these completely. We're going to be reusing these bolts, so save those. Okay, to remove that bolt. And in most cases, you can slide this right off. And then just kind of tuck this in. And we're just going to set that over here, just like that. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and remove your brake rotor. Now, in our particular case here, we have a screw here holding our rotor to the wheel hub. Your vehicle may not have this here, but from the factory, this comes here to hold that rotor on during assembly. If you don't have this screw here, simply remove your brake rotor. Now, this is a T40 Torx bit. I'm going to go ahead and loosen and remove this on ours. I'm going to remove that screw, set that aside, and then grab your brake rotor, remove it, and set that aside. Remove your axle nut using a 32mm socket. The next thing you want to do is make sure that the spindle here on your axle is free floating. So you should be able to push in on this axle so it separates from the splines inside. Ours is stuck a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and spray some rust penetrant inside. And what you do not want to do is smash the end of your axle here using a hammer, because if you mushroom this over, you may not be able to get that axle nut over. So what you want to do is use a good solid punch in the center, and then give it a few smacks with the hammer. You can see that that's moving. It's moving in and out. Now from the back side here, you're going to go ahead and locate 4 bolts. There's one here, here, there's one here, and one right on the other side of our CV axle here. And these bolts hold our wheel hub to the knuckle itself. Now these are 18mm. We're going to go ahead and use a swivel socket and loosen these bolts. Now for some reason, if you can't break these free, you want to go ahead and transition over to a breaker bar if you happen to have one. All right, we have those 2 broken free. So this one's loose, these 2 are loose. I'm going to go ahead and get the one on the other side of our CV axle. Now this bolt, I'm just going to loosen and remove. remove that bolt and set that aside. Now we're going to loosen these out a little bit further, probably about a good 1/2 inch or so. But we're not going to remove them yet. Now we're going to go ahead and use our air hammer, and we're going to utilize these bolts to go ahead and hammer these and hopefully work that wheel hub out of the knuckle. Now I want to be careful not to damage the head of these bolts. Now our hub's started to come out just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and spray some rust penetrant around here and let this soak in for a little bit. Then we're going to let this soak, and then we're going to continue that process. As this comes out further, we're going to unthread those bolts a little bit further to give us that room to push this out. And then eventually this will get to the point where it'll come out. Now we're starting to get our hub loose. I'm going to go ahead and grab my axle nut and just throw this on a couple threads. And I'm going to continue to hammer the bolts from the back side. Now the purpose of this here is that once that hub comes free, I don't want it to shoot off. I'm going to use the axle nut as a capture nut. I'm going to use my extension and my socket, and I'm going to strike it with the hammer. And at this point here, we're going to go ahead and remove our bolts. Go ahead and tap our hub and wiggle that off. Don't forget to remove the axle nut. Pull that off. With our wheel hub removed, there are 3 8mm bolts, one here, and here. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove these. Ideally, you want to be able to reuse these here. Now before we install our backing plate, we went ahead and used some 40 grit sandpaper to go ahead and clean up on the inside to get rid of some of that aluminum corrosion inside. That's going to help our wheel hubs pop back in there. And we just kind of clean up the surface here as well. And take our backing plate here. Now I'm putting on your backing plate. If you're having a hard time figuring out which one goes where, look for the R. That's going to be the right-hand side. The other one should have an L on it. That may help you differentiate the correct side. The other thing, what you want to do is pay attention to is make sure that the points where the bolts go into are recessed and flush going up against the knuckle, and that the notch for the caliper is in the right direction. That'll also narrow it down for you. Once you bottom out, just give it a little bit more. You do want these to be good and tight. Our next step is go ahead and apply some anti-seize compound to the hub face as well as the inside. And don't forget to put some on the splines on the CV axle. Be careful not to get any on your ABS speed sensor, this little tab up on the inside here. Don't get any on that. Now when installing your wheel hub, you want to pay attention to the fitment. These 2 bolt holes are further apart than these 2 here. So be sure when you're installing your wheel hub to go ahead and line that up accordingly. Lift up that CV axle and slide the hub on. And then work that in. Now once you get your hub in so far, you can go ahead and start to put the bolts in through the back. Now that we have all 4 of our bolts started, you want to go ahead and start at 1 bolt And then you want to go to the opposite side, and then you're going to go to one of these and then go to the other side. You're going to do it in a crisscross pattern until that wheel hub is completely pulled in. Now that we have all of our bolts bottomed out, let's go ahead and torque them down. We're going to go ahead and torque these down to 122 foot-pounds. Okay, all 4 of our wheel hub studs are torqued. Go ahead and install the axle nut. And let's go ahead and snug that down. We will torque this later on. Go ahead and install your brake rotor. And if you happen to have the screw for this here, obviously you want to make sure that you line this up with the rotor. Now if you don't have this screw, what we normally recommend to do is grab one of the lug nuts and go ahead and throw that on. That's going to hold the rotor and keep it nice and flush so it doesn't wobble around like this. And then just gently snug that down. Now before we install our brake caliper and bracket with the pads, let's go ahead and clean up our brake rotor. Simply use some spray solvent to clean off any dirt or debris that might have collected on here while we did our service work. Don't forget to get the other side as well. Now that we have our rotor all cleaned up, let's go ahead and grab our brake caliper. I'm going to slide this up and over. Once we have that in its general place, let's go around the back side and get our bolt started. You might have to just grab that caliper and bracket and rock it back and forth to get that to line up. And once it does, that bolt will drop into place, and then go ahead and thread that in. I'm going to go ahead and use my gear wrench, zip these right in quick. Now the swivel head gear wrench here works perfect for this, if you happen to have that. If not, a regular gear wrench or even a ratchet or regular wrench will work. Now you want to go ahead and torque these down to 111 foot-pounds. Now that we have these torqued, the next thing you want to do is hop into the vehicle. You want to go ahead and pump up the brakes, make sure that your brakes have compressed in and they grab. Now we have our vehicle lowered down, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw on a couple lug nuts here. We're going to thread these down. Now I'm going to take a pry bar and I'm going to put this between these two here and rotate this. I'm going to use that pry bar as leverage. I'm going to go ahead and torque down our axle nut to 258 foot-pounds. Here it is. Once you're torqued, go ahead and remove that pry bar and then remove the lug nuts. Grab your wheel, line it up on the studs, and get your lug nuts started. Want to make sure you get these on several threads. And when tightening these down, you want to make sure that you do it in a crisscross or star pattern. And just snug them down. Then you want to go ahead and torque down the lug nuts to 110 foot-pounds. When doing so, you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. After it's torqued, go ahead and grab that center cap, line it up, and pop it on.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.